In this video, I am going to show you the most simplest entry and exit supply and demand strategy that profited me $3,200 on my challenge. Let's get started. What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Taven, otherwise known as Bullish with T, back with another video for you guys. As stated in this video, I'm going to be showing you the most simplest entry and exit supply and demand strategy, so that way you may profit more on your personal account, prop firm, whatever you're trading with, just so that way you can get closer to your goals of what you're trying to do with the trading market. So looking at GU here, I wanted to keep it simple and I wanted to get straight to the point because I really didn't want to make this video too long, but I have marked here my entry and exit. Now, just simply showing you what I was looking for as far as GU went. This one, man, this one played out perfectly for what I was looking for. So if you don't know already, I probably say in every supply and demand video, when you're marking your supply, you typically mark it based off of the last bullish candlestick, and then vice versa for your demand, where you mark it based off of the last bearish candlestick. If you don't know much about supply and demand, highly recommend you check out my supply and demand video. That's actually done very well in regards to views and feedback. But going back into this example here, we're looking at our entry point here. So I marked my supply here. Now the question may first be, out of all these candlesticks, why is this one here my supply? And the answer to that is simply this. So when we have price move here and price is moving down, it's creating technically a lower low. And as price moves up here, it's creating a lower high. So these are these things where it's like, even though price is really consolidating, this is where you have to really understand market structure and really understand price action to the point where you train your eyes to where you can see these little, highs, lows, wherever may be marked, so that way you know how to mark based off your supply and demand zone. So being that this is technically our lower high compared to our higher previous high here, this is technically going to be our supply zone. So I marked that there, waiting for price to do its thing. So it came down, came back up to retest, and closed on the outside of our zone level. I say it all the time, and I will say in every single video, you always want the body of the candlestick to close on the outside of your zone area. So what I mean by that is, if you look here, you see we have a small body based off of this green wick here, where we see that it tapped into our price area here, closed on the lower side, and then in the next hour, we see that price barely tapped in, and then we see it completely sank to our next zone level here. So I always say, when it comes down to your zone levels, as far as supply and demand, again, it's always going to be up to you as far as where you mark your supply and or demand. However, I would always say be cautious about where you're marking them and how far from your entry to your take profit. So when price tapped into my demand zone here, and we see that this next bullish candle here tapped into it, but then closed on the outside, this is how I knew how to get out for my supply and demand entry I had above. And this is basically vice versa for exits as well. And if you really think about this, if you were to flip the script and let's say you were looking for a buy, it's really the same thing that I'm explaining for you when it comes down to your entries and or exits. You're always waiting to see, is price closing within my zone area or is it closing outside of my zone area? The safest supply and demand trading strategy you will always find is when price touches your zone area, but it closes on the outside. Anytime that the candlesticks are closing inside your zone area, more than likely, it means that price is going to continue that direction. Now, obviously, there is no 100%, no strategy is 100% guaranteed. However, if you want the most safe-like strategy with supply and demand, you should always look for some wick projection within your zone areas and then execute on a buy and or sell based upon that. So looking at NZDUSD, this one's a bit different, which is good because I want to show you these different examples of supply and demand. Looking at this, as we can see, we see that price is obviously tapping in and closing into our supply zone here, right? And going up to the previous example that I talked about, I said, hey, the best strategies or the best entries are the ones where, price is wicking within that zone area and closes on the outside. Because really there are about several ways you could trade supply and demand. It's really more so what makes the most sense to you. So looking at this, when it comes down to supply and demand, we obviously see that with our bearish candlestick here, where we'll actually talk about the previous candle. So the bullish candlestick, we see that it retested at the very top of our zone area here. So I have 1, 2, 3, roughly 4 candlesticks that's rejecting on our high in our supply zone. So this could give me an indication that price may want to provide some bearish momentum at some point. Again, it's not the cleanest clearest signs and confirmations when it comes down to looking for a sell. However, what really gave it away was these next two moves, was when this bearish candlestick here pushed past our bullish candle here, broke on the outside of our supply zone here, and then the very next candlestick, which again, you want to look for those wicks, barely tapped into our wick and then closed on the outside. That's what really made me feel more comfortable about getting in for this trade. Now, what made me feel better about holding this trade was this bearish candle that we have here. As we see, that price came down and retested. So it didn't even tap into our zone area. It retested on the outside of our supply zone area, and then price continued to push down. And the same thing I did with GU for my exit is the same thing I look for here on NU, which was I look for my demand zone. So here's the demand zone. I see that price came down here. It broke through, but it closed within the body here. And then we have bullish momentum. But it was also at that point where when I also saw how much I was profiting at that point that I just closed. But I will say, for me personally, a rule of thumb is any time that I see a candlestick that has a huge wick to the top and or bottom. So in this case, we see that we have a huge wick to the bottom. Anytime that typically see those, I always have noticed that in most cases, price is going to typically go up. Now, definitely there will be times where price may consolidate, and it may go down, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. And because I was already up in a great amount of profit, I decided to close out early on that trade as well. Also, as a little bonus, if you look here, you actually could see that we even could have gotten back in for a buy, seeing that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candlesticks that actually closed and retested on the outside of our demand zone here. And as you can see, price continues to push up and up and up. So just a little, extra knowledge for you guys that anytime prices, especially retesting on the outside of your zone areas, you are probably more than likely to be able to take that sell and or buy, simply depending on the direction of the market. So with that being said, guys, that is really all I have for you in this video. Again, I wanted to keep it very, very simple. I wanted to keep it very, very smooth because again, it's nothing too crazy. The thing about this and my channel and the videos and content I'm creating for you guys is I want to truly create trading and the knowledge of trading as simple as possible. And I don't want to over, exaggerate anything. I don't want to make it seem like you have to know all these indicators and tools when it's just like, you just find that one strategy that really works well for you. You stick with it and you stay consistent and disciplined with it. But most importantly, understand that not every single strategy is going to work 100% of the time. So keep in mind, if you do have a strategy and you're thinking it's not working, it's not profitable whatsoever, but there are other people who are profiting with it, I am not simply saying to stick with that strategy and you can't switch anything else. I always say what you feel like you resonate to and understand more, stick with that strategy. However, if you're saying some strategy is just really not good at all, I would challenge yourself to look within yourselves. Is it your psychology? Are you impatient? Are you getting in too early on your entries? We really have to understand that the trading game itself, it's very psychological. It's a patience game, and we just have to understand that. But again, not every strategy is 100%, but supply and demand here has definitely been the most successful for me. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, if you don't understand supply and demand too much, definitely go check out my supply and demand video I had, where I got great feedback on, and it's on helping other traders understanding supply and demand as well. Also, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment, let me know what else you want to see, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Catch you all in the next video, guys. Take care.